Welcome to CAUIM SNMP Collector Probe 2.x. This video will cover what the pollagent probe is, and how to use it. To begin, if you're using SNMP Collector version 1 or 2, you are already also using pollagent. Pollagent is a second probe that actually does the SNMP polling. Please note that in version 3, there will no longer be a probe called pollagent. Pollagent is code that was originally developed at HP in the mid-1990s, and was then, over the years, acquired by several companies. It remains the polling choice for the SNMP collector probe, as the code is very well written, tested, and is very scalable. However, there are some unique characteristics, due to its varied life cycle, that you should know and remember. To begin, the config file is not called pollagent.conf. You will find it in the conf directory, but its name will be fh.conf. fh is short for FireHunter. As a result, this means there is no raw config, since raw config would look for pollagent.conf. The log file can be found in the log directory, and is called agm.log. However, note that there is also a pollagent.log file, but it links back to this file. Also be aware that memory in pollagent is not treated the same as with most Java probes and should be configured using Infrastructure Manager only. There are some things you can do with pollagent to optimize its configuration and performance. First, we'll take a look at what to do if there is a memory issue, and you need to add memory. And then we'll look at how to set a strict polling schedule. Finally, we'll look at the log file to make sure that you're following the log role correctly, and then take a close look at the pollagent dump servlet.
So if we look here in Infrastructure Manager, highlight the probe, and go to Edit, it shows the command line arguments. And right here would be the max memory setting that we would want to change. It defaults to 1.5 gig, roughly, and you can use M for megabytes, G for gigabytes, but pretty much you don't want to go less than this. This will cover up to several hundred machines as targets. We wouldn't want to reduce that much. We can see here, this here random fixed schedule is false. Now that's false by default, and we want to change that to be true. Otherwise, what happens is that it polls once during a 5-minute bucket. That location can be anywhere in that 5 minutes. So you'll be guaranteed to get somewhere within that 5 minutes a poll for that metric. That's the default behavior. It really is optimized for performance. If, however, you have SLAs or some other requirement that says we absolutely have to make sure that we vary no more than just a few seconds from a particular polling frequency, normally 5 minutes, then we would want to set this to true. So that's random fixed schedule equals true in that case. Let's look at a session here on the box that has this installed. It is a Linux box in this case, and if we look in the opt nimsoft probes network pollagent directory, that's where this is installed. You'll see that it has a conf directory and a log directory. If we look in the conf directory, we see multiple areas, but we primarily see fh.conf, which if we go here, we can see this. The first 2 lines pretty much show where it came from, FireHunter and indicative. And there are a few things in here that have relevance to SNMP Collector, but not very many. There are an awful lot of things that relate to other capacities that this probe has that we don't use. I recommend that you do not look at pollagent.log, that you instead look at, let's go here into the log directory, at capital A, capital G, capital M.log. That is the real log file, and you want to make sure that that's the one you're watching. Now here is the page that you get when you go to help, and we'll drop down there, you can see the address. For some reason, the capital D on dump is important. Now, normally here, what you would see is a whole bunch of things that were developed way back when, and a few additions that we put in. One is the metrics page, and when you look for the metrics page, it gives you the total of metrics that are applied and actually lists them. What we're going to do here on this is we have a few things here that we set up for a previous video, and they're not currently being monitored. So we will turn on our copy and save it, and within a moment or two, those templates will be applied. And at that point, a number of tests will be set up and it will start polling. Now, how do you know that they're polling if you don't see data right away? And we've already discussed that it takes a few moments to see the data when you go into USM. So what you want to do then is go back here to the dump servlet, and you can go and see the tests, which is the actual chunks of monitoring that gets sent to it. You can see the metrics. You can see what we call the metric stats. Now here, we now see that we have 2,800 metrics that have been applied and are being polled. Now, let's also look at the metric stats. Now, this is important in that it tells you which ones are active and which ones are inactive and which ones are configured. Let me say right up front that this page is a little confusing because it shows, in essence, all the metrics that could have been polled. And pollagent actually is polling all of these metrics, but it's only delivering the ones that have been configured. So you'll see lots of these that show inactive, and that's exactly true. They are inactive, which means it's not going to give you any metrics on those. It's configured them and it's running them, but it's not going to deliver them. This one here, for example, says active, and it gives a number afterwards, which is the actual last value. Configured simply means it's been configured, it's active, but it hasn't actually delivered anything yet. So if we refresh this, we now see that that initial one is now active, and that's the value that it's reporting. So this is a good way to see at a glance in the metrics what has been configured, how many is a grand total, for example, and which ones they are. And then back here in metric stats shows you what's active, what's not active, and the last polled value for the ones that are active. That, in your troubleshooting, at least gives you a way of saying, yes, SNMP Collector and pollagent are doing this. If you're not seeing them at the other end, there's another reason for that, whether it's in the configuration of your NAS, some oddity in the database, or, it gives you something to eliminate in trying to trace down why your reports aren't coming out, or whatever the end result is. So anyway, that is a quick overview of pollagent.
For more detailed information about how to configure the SNMP Collector probe, refer to the documentation wiki, or visit the UIM community to join in the discussion. The links can also be found in the YouTube description located below this video.